Trump is looking for other people to crime with him. What in the I think it's just an earthquake. An earthquake is really happening right now, and I'm on the 8th floor.
Hey everybody, it's Cameron Kasky.
And it's Tim Miller.
And you're listening to FYPod, the Bulwark's Gen Z investigation show, where today we are going to be talking about El Salvador and the guy from El Salvador who kind of looks like a dumb fucking idiot who's at the White House today. And Trump looked bored while he was talking. Trump looked like he even knew how dumb this guy was. Who is this Bukele guy? So? How did he get into the...
Bukele. Some fun facts about him for you, Cam. He invested heavily into Bitcoin for the nation of El Salvador. So El Salvador's got a very big Bitcoin play. And he also just started jailing lots of people. Now, in this case, there was a lot of crime in El Salvador, and there were a lot of refugees from El Salvador for a while coming to America. But the manner in which he's done it, the crime crackdown, has been, kind of Nazi-ish, I guess you would say. It has been, not, the way that we do things in this country. He just kind of rounds people up and throws them in a dystopia RoboCop prison. And so that was a big problem for El Salvador, or an issue for El Salvador, but it's become our problem because I think he became buddies with Don Jr. You can tell how they would, you kind of tell that they would be buddies, him and Don Jr. Doesn't he give off Don Jr.'s buddy kind of vibes?
In the sense that he seems like a dumb bro who wants to be a bro, but doesn't have the swagger for it. His haircut is giving 14-year-old soccer player that I went to middle school with. He looks like he has no idea what's going on. He has no idea what he's saying. So often in this administration and in this right-wing world movement, not only MAGA, but also the people around the globe who are acting this way, you ask yourself, how much is this evil and how much is this stupidity? And I think this guy leans a lot harder on the stupidity than a lot of people in the MAGA global movement.
Yeah, I don't know. The prison is pretty evil, so I'd say he's got a good dose of both. He does have a really bad haircut, though. I do concur with you on that.
The haircut is really stupid. The outfit's really stupid. I saw this on, I think, Bulwark Twitter. He's not wearing a tie, which you'd think J.D. Vance would have something to say about that.
Yeah.
And he called Abrego Garcia, the gentleman who is never convicted of terrorism and is in one of his El Salvador gulags right now, he called him a terrorist. And I have a feeling that Bukele isn't aware that this guy is not a terrorist. It doesn't seem like he knew that he was wrong.
I think what is happening here is that he is just calling everyone that he puts in the gulags terrorists or gang members because that, in his view, absolves him of having to have any responsibility. Right? Like if this person is a terrorist or a gang member, then they have no rights. It doesn't matter what your questions are. We don't want them back on the street, as Trump was like, they're sick puppies. And so I think that it's as simple as that. I mean, obviously he knew he was going to be asked about this. So that was like his prepared pitch, was that he can't bring a so-called terrorist back into the country. Later in the interview, Trump is talking about sending U.S. citizens now to El Salvador, not just people that are coming here looking for asylum, as he's already done. So I don't, I mean, it takes us to a very dark place if you get to a point where Bukele and Trump can just say you're a gang member or a terrorist, and then you get sent to a prison camp with no recourse. If you start applying that to U.S. criminals, it could go to a very bad place.
The law got in the way of it, and it didn't even work. So over dinner last week, we were talking with our good friend Teddy Goff, and he mentioned a Bulwark show called The Takes. I wasn't familiar with this because I don't, interact with media. But can I offer a take here? Can I give you Cam's take?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So you got Trump, and he's looking around the globe for guys like Bukele from El Salvador and for other criminals who are willing to crime with him. And whether that's sending US citizens away because of quote unquote terrorism or like writing an op-ed for their school paper, whatever it may be. They are trying to build these large facilities for enemies of the state, but not actual enemies of the state, enemies of the whole MAGA program. And the same people who are complaining about the deep state and saying that there is a deep state that is controlling everything are doing exactly what they say the deep state does. It seems to be the people who are the most upset about the supposed deep state who do the deep state shit. That's my take. And that is my truth.
That's a good take, Cam. That's good. We can get you into the takes feed. I think that your insight there about how Trump is looking for other people to crime with him. What in the fuck? I think it is just an earthquake. I think an earthquake is happening right now.
I think you're making an excuse to not give a take because my take was better. Are you okay?
An earthquake is really happening right now, and I'm on the 8th floor. This is insane. It's still earthquaking. Wow.
And now a word from our sponsors.
Where were we? We just had an earthquake intervention here, so things. The natural world is sending us some messages as well out here in California.
There is an above 50% chance that Tim is going to live to the end of this recording.
I hope so. Or I just had a really good time at Coachella, and that wasn't an earthquake, but I'm having some tremors on my own. I don't know. We'll see. One or the other. We'll get the details after.
Before we get back into the fascism, one quick question for you: when you were at Coachella, were there Tim Miller fans like coming up to you and being like, "Oh my God, dude, I love your show"?
There were, yeah. I had a couple of those. Not that people. I think at Coachella, there are a lot of celebs around who are way more famous than me. And so I think the vibe's a little bit more chill on that. But there were. I did a great selfie with a couple of gays who were excited to hang out. They listened to the show. And, I met some other folks. It was great.
What is the most uncomfortable place that you're willing to share where you have been the least happy to hear somebody say, "Oh, you're Tim Miller"?
Definitely the gay bar after like 1 a.m. I'm not really looking for small talk. Sometimes I'm partying a little bit at the gay bar, and I'd like to be able to party in peace. But I love everybody. It's nice. I'm not famous enough to have it be annoying. Like, it's great. I love everybody. So you can say hi to me in the airport. Just if it's like after 1 a.m., maybe don't say hi to me. But before 1 a.m., it's great.
FYPods, go approach Tim. Go talk to him, especially while he's with people.
I love humans. I want to get back to the thing that I was observing, that your insight that was correct, which was Trump like vibing with other people that are willing to do crimes, go around the law. And if you kind of just look at who our allies are now in the world, it's like really that is it across the board. It's MBS in Saudi Arabia, who chopped up a journalist. It is Bukele in El Salvador. It's Orban, right? Like these, like this is like the crew that we're rolling with now. And Trump wants to reorient the world to have our allies be just the people that are willing to kind of ride shotgun with him on the criming game. And I'm pretty concerned about the fact that is going to have some staying power.
And it's just a question of who's going to stand up against it, right? So many people don't care. So many people don't give a shit. And I think this immigration nightmare is a great way to show us how little people care. And this brings to mind conversations with your friends and when it is and is not appropriate to talk about politics. Because when you see things like people getting disappeared for using their First Amendment rights, at what point is this something that we should talk to our friends about? Because I think a lot of people live blissfully unburdened by the state of the world. A lot of people say, "Oh, I don't watch the news. I don't watch the news." You meet so many people who say like, "Oh, I didn't hear about that. Yeah, I just can't do the news anymore." And you understand it because the news is really hard to watch. But at some point, we must reach a point where it's like, no, you should talk to your friends about this and say, "Hey, do you know that this is going on? Do you know that this is happening in our country?" Because the videos you see of what ICE is doing to people, breaking people's car windows to unlock the door, this looks like it's from another fucking country. This is not the United States. And a lot of people have sort of just given themselves a pass to not have to think about it. And it's really tough. And you have to start conversations.
You know, Cam, it's a good timing for this question because I think the answer like might be today. I just this press conference in the Oval Office, like, okay, it was very bad and dangerous, and I've been ranting about it. What we've done to the Venezuelans and to Kilmar Garcia, who's from El Salvador, right? And like we disappeared these people, they're NC cooked, but throughout this time, the courts were siding against the administration, right? So there's this like, okay, well, maybe this will be resolved, right? Like the Supreme Court ruled 9-0. This Supreme Court ruled 9-0 that they had to facilitate Alberto Garcia's return. And so, you know, like maybe you could rationalize being like, okay, it doesn't feel like America, but let's see if the system holds. Like the system isn't holding. The system isn't holding. And people are getting wrongfully sent to a foreign prison. And I don't know that it's like going to be your friends who are the next people going to the prison, but it's certainly enough time to get people fucking freaked out about it. Because I do think that we have passed an inflection point today, given the fact that they're just defying the Supreme Court order.
But it all goes back to the same thing as the tariffs, which is, oh, it'll figure itself out. That's what I got from all my other Gen Zs when everybody was asking me, what are the Gen Zs saying about the tariffs? They were like, you know what? If I don't waste the mental and spiritual energy worrying about this, I'm sure it'll be fine at some point. And I totally am susceptible to feelings like this. When I see shit that's dark enough, my brain tells me, look away. You are a white, cis man in America. Ultimately, you'll be fine. You know, like you can worry about the minorities and the women and the immigrants and stuff like that. You can spend your time hurting for them, but you're going to be okay. Like I do get that feeling, but the elixir to that ignorance is talking to people in your day-to-day life, because I think a lot of the folks who would listen to something like an FYPod and a lot of the folks who would follow you or me on social media, they might not be aware of just how big the population of people who just don't care at all is, right? We think of the folks who are on the side of protecting the immigrants and the First Amendment, and there are the folks who are on the MAGA side. But in between those two things is this giant fucking like base of people who don't even fucking know that it's happening in the first place. And it's really alarming.
Yeah. This is not, well, you know, this is such a serious thing. I hate to like make it just about politics, but this is kind of the Democrats' big political challenge, is like reaching those people. And so, you have some thoughts about what they've been up to lately? Who's been out there reaching the Volk?
Yeah, you've got 20,000 people in Tucson, 34,000 people in Denver, 20,000 people in Salt Lake, 36,000 in Los Angeles. What are those big numbers? Those are the people showing up to watch Bernie Sanders and AOC talk about the oligarchy. And I am watching left-wing leaders in this country gain so much popularity. I'm watching economic populist messaging more popular than ever. And that's really saying something, because economic populist messaging has always been really huge. I mean, James Carville, in between his fucking Bing Crosby records, has said it's about the economy. And the left is talking about the economy, and Trump is talking about the economy. And in the center, they're doing everything they can to avoid that sort of economic populism. And they are talking about shit like identity politics that makes us look like a bunch of assholes. So I'm wondering, Tim, as somebody who is, you know, a moderate political who has his own opinions, not dogmatic, whatever, do you think the moderates are going to see the popularity of the left right now and say, this is how we win? Or do you think they're going to do what they did in 2020 and say, we need to disrupt this as aggressively as possible?
You know, well, look, I mean, obviously there'll be a campaign. Well, maybe not obviously actually anymore in this country, but
this
likely
is the last time to say obviously.
Likely there'll be a campaign in 2028. And so, you know, there'll be some more left candidate and some more center candidate, and they'll go after each other. I don't know. Sometimes my new experience being part of the broader Democratic coalition, there's some cultural things that I find like a change. In the Republican primaries, it's kind of like no hard feelings, bro. Like everybody gets the game. Like, you know, Trump's gonna call him Ron DeSanctimonious, and like, you know, you're not gonna, you know, cry in your fucking Cheerios about it, and vice versa. The Democrats, like, what was that? What the fuck is that?
May I have your attention, please?
Holy shit.
May I have your attention, please? We have just experienced an earthquake. Be prepared for any aftershocks. The staff is currently investigating if evacuations are needed, but as of right now, no evacuation is advised.
Okay, back to podcasting.
What an exciting FYPod. Well, we still have to wait. What an exciting FYPod. That was 6.7 earthquake. Wow, holy shit. So, like, you know, that I didn't even think that the Bernie and Hillary or Bernie and Biden campaigns were particularly like bad. Bad. I do think that there's a lot of like some people on the left or from the Bernie world, they're like, the DNC did everything to tear us down. It's like, I don't know, not really. Actually, that was just called a campaign, and Bernie ran a really great campaign, but just lost. But anyway, I think that you are seeing the popularity of it for sure. I think that people in the center, like tariffs is a huge gift for them to talk about the economy in a way that is focused on people's economic pain, but is not tied to the stupid far left parts of the economic populism, and can also be pro free trade.
Like what?
Well, I mean, some of the far left like tariffs. I'm gonna have an exchange with Chris DeLuzio, who's more of like an economic populist type guy from Western Pennsylvania. We're gonna have him on the Daily Pod tomorrow, and I want to hash this out with him because he was kind of like doing like, well, some tariffs are good, and you know.
Can you tell him that I call him Chris DeLuzero?
No, I will not tell him that. That's kind of rude. And really I kind of have to make up for it because I kind of sent a mean tweet about him, and so now we're gonna make up, and this is how grown-ups act. Like we're gonna hash it out ourselves. But that said, like I don't like some of the far left protectionist stuff. I mean, some of like now we're gonna really bore people. I can't believe this is a Gen Z pod, but the interest that we're paying on our debt is really going to be a big fucking problem. And if you want people to be able to get their, health services in the future, we probably need to like spend less money, not more money on certain things. So, there are going to be things that I get crossways with Bernie and AOC on that. But like spiritually, they're in the right place. Like getting people excited, giving no quarter to Trump, talking about the wealth inequality in this country, like all of that is good shit. And I feel like anybody could really, like, honestly, Mark Cuban could do that. Like a centrist Dem could do it and not have to like embrace every single Green New Deal policy or whatever. It's just they haven't tended to.
Here's the thing. The system doesn't work is messaging that resonates with people. That's telling true. Them the system's broken and we need to turn it around and make it work for you. That works. And moderate Democrats exist to say, no. Here's why the system has been good and will continue to be good. And obviously it's going to be different now that Trump has completely dismantled the system, and moderates might run on a restoration of that system, but they'll be running on the restoration of a system that nobody thinks was working for them. So I can see such a clear path for populists like Bernie and AOC to make it into office saying it's time to flip the narrative and change the game. But like, okay, you're Pete Buttigieg and you're saying, hey, don't you want things to be like they were in 2022? Like, I guess I just don't see how how there could be a moderate movement right now when Trump's election has shown us just how flaccid and useless that is.
I mean, I don't know. Nobody else has beaten Trump. So, like it wasn't like the far left has demonstrated a huge electoral success.
Trump has never beat the far left. Only the Democrats have beat the far left from within.
Well, but that's because they haven't won themselves, and like they haven't. Are there any examples of far left candidates winning in swing states? Like, not really. Like Gretchen Whitmer, Shapiro, Tony Evers. Like, look at the states you need to win. But Ossoff, Warnock. Like, none of these people are from Mark Kelly in Arizona. Like, none of these people are far left. Like, they were winning in New York and Vermont. So anyway, I don't want to salt their game because I think it's good, and I agree with your political analysis that it is smart politics to be about wanting to fight the system. I don't agree with your assessment. Like this is my like conservative impulse coming out, but like, I don't know, man. Like we like lifted a lot of people out of poverty. We had economic success like beyond anybody's imagination. Like if you like live if you're a lower middle class person in America, you have like air conditioning and a TV and like a pretty good life globally. And I just think that that saying that the system is so broken that we need to radically change it we risk replacing the current system with a worse system. That said, I realize that is about as popular politics as like, dropping turds on people's lawn. So I'm open to other. I think there are other different ways to kind of channel the reform energy, and it's just like AOC is just kind of the one that's got it figured out at the moment.
Speaking of your conservative instincts, what is the conversation within conservative circles about how the homeless population looked in the United States before Reagan's presidency, and then how it just coincidentally during the Reagan years shot up from being almost a non-issue to this giant homeless population? Like, does everybody say like, oh, isn't it crazy that everybody decided to be homeless right around when Reagan was president and destroyed public housing?
I think that what they would say to you, Cameron, is that the worst homelessness crisis in America is in California, which has been run by Democrats for 25 years, and they should probably do something to figure it out. And
hey, that's where Ronald Reagan is from.
The homeless crisis is not that bad, actually, in Texas or Oklahoma. So, really, this is not my conservative thing. Now I get to put on my YIMBY hat. Cameron, you're like hitting all my pleasure centers right now. Like, the problem in this case is really bipartisan, and it's that we haven't built enough fucking houses. I know that's kind of complicated. It's like, oh, we have a lot of homeless people. What do we think the solution to that is? Maybe more homes. That might be something to consider.
It's very strange. One more thing in terms of your conservative tendencies is I just found out that you were comms director for the Jeb Bush campaign. I started the show. Well, I never Googled you before we started this show.
I think probably you should have Googled me. That was probably a mistake.
Well, but here's the origin of FYPod for those of you who don't know, which is everyone. I was trying to show my friend a video of my closest friend, Teddy Goff, speaking. And I type Teddy Goff into YouTube and I see, oh, Tim Miller has Teddy Goff on to talk about the DNC. And I watch the video and I'm like, wow, Tim Miller, I think I follow him on Instagram. This guy is getting the best out of Teddy. Like, this is the most fun I've ever seen Teddy. This is awesome. So I DM Tim. I'm like, hey, let's do an episode that's you and me just like harassing Teddy for the whole audience. And it ended up turning into me being a guest on the Bulwark podcast. And then FYPod was born. But during this whole process, I never actually looked Tim up. I just knew I followed him on Instagram. But then
this is very appropriate for the Gen Z podcast. This is a very Gen Z situation where you're just a casual Instagram oomph. We're just casual Instagram oomphs. You know nothing about me. Total chaos, impulse decision making. This is great. You're hitting all the stereotypes.
I trusted my heart, and that I said, you know what, Tim seems like good people. We spoke to each other. We exchanged, and I was like, this guy seems like good people. But anyway, I finally Googled you the other day, probably 3 months into our podcast, and I saw you were comms director for Jeb Bush. It's like, I knew you were involved with the campaign. I didn't know you had such a cool job. This is off topic, but that's fine. What was the first meeting as comms director for the Jeb Bush campaign after Please Clap? When Jeb Bush told those people, please clap, did you guys just sit and look at each other and go, uh-oh?
Tracy Morgan looked into my eyes recently and said that he could tell I was a good person from my eyes, which was a very good compliment. It was a little strange, but so you and Tracy Morgan have that in common. Jeb, the Please Clap meeting. I'll tell you what happened. As I was actually there for Please Clap, I was in the room. And it was totally fine. It was like a self-deprecating joke he was making.
I think the next president needs to be a lot quieter, but send a signal that we're prepared to act in the national security interests of this country to get back in the business of creating a more peaceful world. Please clap.
Nobody in the room thought it was weird at all. Nobody mentioned it. Ashley Parker over at the Atlantic, who's my friend, but I will never forgive, sent the video and like worded it in a way that like made it seem very sad. And it took off. Now everybody knows about it. You know about it. Casuals know about it. And mostly the meeting after it was me yelling at Ashley, being like, why in the fuck did you do me this dirty? We're already losing this goddamn campaign. Could you just let this campaign die in peace? Could you just let us rest, without like kicking dirt on us on the way down? And she kind of half apologized and chuckled, and I don't really recall. I mostly recall rage towards Ashley, loving rage, and I don't recall what even talking to Jeb about it after. I guess I would have had to, but I don't.
Did you guys have like an action meeting post the popularity of low energy Jeb? Because here's what I'm thinking: you worked with Romney, right?
Yeah.
And you were working for low energy Jeb. And what I'm thinking is, if I was working for low energy Jeb, I would have done a photo shoot of Jeb lifting weights like Paul Ryan. Was there ever a meeting where you guys were like, hey, here's an energy thing we're going to do with the Jeb. We're going to, have him do a boxing class and take a video of it.
Yeah, there were those meetings, believe it or not. This is how stupid campaigns are sometimes. I think there was an idea to do a running video with him because he runs, where he would like run and talk to the camera. I can't really remember the details on it. I'd have to ask the digital gal. She would remember. So there was that. He started cussing a little bit later in the campaign. Show a little bit of oomph. But no, I mean, honestly, the thing that I most remember from an earnest point, because I love Jeb, was like, I had a conversation with him on the plane once where I was just like, look, man, if the people want Trump, like there's literally nothing you can do. Like maybe you should have punched him in the face. That might have been the one thing that you could do. But like his whole aura was so opposite of Trump's, and it's like, it's not like, oh, if I do a boxing video or if I start, punching up my messaging, like people are going to want Jeb. You know what I mean? Like they're so different that I wanted to give him just a little bit of comfort that he could just be himself. I wanted him to be the best Jeb he could be.
Are you guys on cool enough terms that we could see if we could get him on FYPod? And for those of you who listen to our weekend segment, we do something called Gen Z News, where our great producer Sebastian gathers a bunch of headlines about Gen Z and we react to them. I would love to do Gen Z News with Jeb.
I am on good terms with him. I don't know if he would want to do that, but maybe I'll suggest at least he send us a boomer mailbag. Send us a question from a boomer.
Well, you could say, look, I have a public school student from Florida. He is one of the children who got left behind. You can interact with that live. You can meet the consequences of your own actions.
You're thriving. You're thriving, Cameron, thanks to the Florida school system. What a great FYPod. Earthquake happened here. We saw that live. So, that's fun. We now have this experience together. Now you've Googled me and we have this earthquake bonding experience together. So that's great.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and tune in this weekend for not only a great interview with a Gen Z congressional candidate, we are also going to be doing a relay race video where me, Tim, and Jeb are going to do that thing where you run and you tie your legs. What's it called? Three-legged race?
Three-legged race. Oh, that would be so fun.
See y'all soon.